Hi, here's my MM2H update for the month of February 2022. The big news is they are now accepting applications for the new program. Officially it was announced it would be October, but for some reason it's only happening now. Although the minister did come out and said before they actually opened them that they'd already received 111 applications and had approved some. So it was a bit confusing to us why applications being received when we'd asked immigration frontliners if we could submit new applications, and they said no, they're not ready yet. So there was apparently some disconnect there. The minister seemed to think this was a good number of applications and that the new program was working, but I'm afraid we stick with our comments that fundamentally Malaysia will economically lose out by this new program, because the fact is not that many people, particularly the retirees who are interested in the program, make over 40,000 ringgit a month income. Of course, some do, and some people will make the application. But we're also seeing that people are saying, yes, I have to make the money, but I'm not going to put $1 million ringgit into Malaysia, given the fact the country is, unfortunately, had a devaluing currency for some time, and of course the interest rates are very, very low. So it becomes an additional cost of joining the program. We're still trying to find out exactly what the requirements are. We know roughly what they are, but apparently some specific instructions on the process to apply for new applicants is going to be issued in this coming week. So we're waiting for that. What we're finding out is people are writing to us, coming to our help desk, saying they want to join the program. We go back, tell them what the new rules are, and they go, oh, wow, I didn't realize it was that much change. I won't be joining. So very, very few applications. The other thing that's a bit confusing is that when the program was first announced, the minister announced that they would limit the number of people who could apply, including dependents, to 1% of the population, which is fair enough. That's obviously something Malaysia can make a decision about. It's their country. But that would be about 330,000 people, and they hadn't even reached half that number. In fact, we doubt they even reached a quarter of that number. So the old program was nowhere near the limit that's been set. And obviously this new program, which is much more severe, basically means they'll probably have 0.1 of the population as the ceiling. So I think Malaysia are going to lose out, frankly, from this program. And as we've also found out from our survey, the very confusing statements that have been made about MM2H over the last 6 months or so have in fact had a negative impact on expats' feelings about Malaysia. And I think that has some concerns, or should have some concerns for the country, but let me get back to that. We previously advised you that My Travel Pass is not required any longer. You used to have to get approval to come to Malaysia. That's no longer required, unless you have an expired visa. Of course, we don't have any visa. So if you have a visa from Malaysia, you don't need to apply for approval to come in. If you're one of those MM2Hs who've been refused entry over a long time, you can now apply using My Travel Pass to get approval, and apparently they are approving Malaysia My Second Homers with expired visas to come back to Malaysia. That's seriously overdue. We were very unhappy when MM2Hs were locked out of the country because the previous government had invited them to set up their homes here, and of course to be told that you could not return to what was in many cases their only homes was very disturbing for them, and again has contributed, as our recent survey of expats has shown, to some very negative feelings about the country, which I think is very sad. Quarantine, as we said before, you can do it at home if you get approval first through the Ministry of Health website. The number of COVID-19 cases is now starting to rise. It gradually came down from about 20,000 a day a few months ago to 2,000 a day. Now we're back up at 20,000 a day, but apparently most of them are new variant Omicron, which appears to be less severe than previous variants. So some people are saying this could be the end of the pandemic, everyone will get COVID, the mild version, no serious consequences, and we'll be able to open the borders. But Malaysia's sticking with their very strict rules, and they're not wanting to open the borders. Not entirely clear why they want to take this attitude, but again, it is their country and they have the right to make whatever decision they feel is appropriate. Now, in fact, the the council that advises the government on opening borders recommended they open them from March the 1st, but for some reason the cabinet was not in agreement. So we're still basically in a state of semi-lockdown, which of course is causing enormous damage to the tourism industry and all the players in that, because Malaysia basically was very, very successful in attracting tourists, and now there aren't any. So you can imagine what that's done to the hotels and all the other businesses which are linked to tourism. We feel that's a strong argument to open the borders, but apparently the government disagrees. There are VTL flights, vaccinated travel lane, special flights where you have multiple COVID-19 tests and you are allowed to come in the country without going through quarantine. They have flights from Singapore to Malaysia, which qualify as VTL flights, and also into Langkawi from quite a few countries on VTL flights. And that was meant to be a sort of test case, the island of Langkawi anyway, to see how it worked. Unfortunately, it does seem that the very strict conditions of joining the flight has actually turned a lot of people off, so they're not exactly being flooded with tourists right now. But it is one way to get into Malaysia, because after 7 days in Langkawi, you are allowed to journey to the rest of the country, providing, of course, that your daily COVID tests keep coming back negative. There's apparently new terms for the MM2Hs who are already in the program have been announced by the minister, and many people say, oh, I understand we now have to spend 90 days there. They put the visa fees up. That was advised by the minister, but for some reason, immigration has not applied those rules. So currently, you can renew your visa under the same terms and conditions, no increase in the visa fee, and no requirement to spend 90 days a year in the country. And of course, that would be difficult since a lot of MM2Hs were refused entry over the last year and couldn't even make it to the country, even though they wanted to. So whether those changes will ever be implemented is anybody's guess. We find it very hard to get answers from the immigration department. There's been quite a bit of interest in the Sarawak visa, and we already had a number of people who've applied for it. There were very few applications during the lockdown period, and of course with the borders closed, they're still very limited, but some people are applying. The terms are much more attractive, and currently the visa is valid in West Malaysia. So you can apply for the Sarawak visa and live in West Malaysia. Whether that will continue, we don't know. It's quite possible they will decide they will not allow people to live here with the Sarawak visa, particularly as the terms are so much more attractive, where you can either declare income or make a fixed deposit and you will qualify. We can give you more details. Just get in touch with us. Check our website, mm2h.com, and we're happy to assist if you want to try that visa out. It's certainly a lot more attractive than the one for the mainland. Finally, just want to talk briefly about a survey we've done of expats. We've been doing surveys for 25 years with the expat community, and for the first time, we're having quite a bit of negative feedback. It was a bit disappointing, frankly. Most expats said they would no longer recommend this country as a country to invest in, and a much reduced number said they would recommend it as a place to live. Now, there was a higher number for the people who would recommend it for a place to live, because people still love Malaysia. It's a great place to live. You can have a good life here. But unfortunately, the consequence of the very confusing information regarding the new MM2H visa, the fact that people are locked out of the country and refused permission to return to their only homes, the fact that there's a lot of ongoing corruption trials going on, which give a lot of publicity to 1MDB, and the massive losses the country suffered under corruption, and a lot more cases being processed by the Anti-Corruption Commission. And again, some people are saying that they find that situation on religious and racial tensions has actually increased somewhat in the last few years. So those are the negatives. We hope they'll be fixed. There is an election coming up this year, and should a new government get in, we very much hope they will address this issue, because I do believe that expats can make a good contribution to any country. It's great to have thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people going around the world praising the country as they did in the past. Equally, I think it's a matter of concern if that many people are traveling overseas with a more negative view of the country and spreading that word to their friends, relatives, and colleagues at other multinational companies. So that's all for this month. We'll try and stay positive. Talk to you next month. Bye.